Ingrid, steig runter da sein.
We are protesting against this celebration for Israel, this gathering here that is celebrating the 71st anniversary of the creation of the State of Israel. And we as Jewish people say that this is an embarrassment to our people, this is a desecration of our religion. Well, we are Jewish, and because we are Jewish, and because we are here to preserve our religion and preserve our people, we stand there and we try to clarify yourself and so many other people, educate them, that this movement does not represent the Jewish people. Unfortunately, this is a movement which is causing conflict, causing wars, causing bloodshed on all sides of the conflict today in Palestine, in Israel, and is a true desecration of our religion, is a desecration of God's name. What was mentioned here before, they talked here about the Holy Land, and we preserve the Holy Land and all of this. Yes, the Holy Land is supposed to be a land in a level of holiness. It's supposed to be preserved in the level of holiness God requires of us. This is not supposed to be desecrated and defiled by turning the back to Judaism and to God. Unfortunately, today the State of Israel is officially turning their back to God. It's officially dropping the Jewish religion. It's officially uprooting all what our ancestors as Jewish people gave their lives for. Unfortunately, this is the greatest rebellion against God today on earth, especially in the name of the Jewish people, in the name of the Jewish religion, in the name of God. They are using God's name to rebel against God. And unfortunately, this is, again, a desecration of our religion. It's an embarrassment to our people worldwide. And on top of all, it's causing bloodshed, so much bloodshed. Just a couple of days ago, we had shootings on both sides of the conflict. Why? So many people died. Why? Because of this unjust occupation of Palestine. This is unjust in international law. This is unjust in Jewish law. All of this is embarrassing.
What do you think is the way forward for the Israel-Palestine conflict?
Well, first of all, I have to comment on what the gentleman said there before, which he basically helped the beginning of my conversation, admitting that the State of Israel officially is an official movement founded and supported by Jewish people from Jewish descent, and this is officially a rebellion against God. It's officially dropping.
Israel is a rebellion.
Well, this is what the gentleman, the Israeli supporter, just admitted to. And this is very important to understand before we start our conversation. To understand that when you find a celebration for Israel, like the way across the street, this cannot in any way represent the Jewish religion. This cannot in any way represent the entire Jewish people. This is a movement that was created by some people from Jewish descent, which is in total contrast to all what Judaism stands for. And this was not invented by people following the Jewish tradition. This was not invented by people who followed the tradition of their grandparents. This was founded over 100 years ago by people who left Judaism, who turned their back to God and His religion. This is what we have to understand before we start any conversation. To understand that the State of Israel does not represent Judaism, as a religion does not represent the Jewish people. Now,
does it represent Zionism?
Well, Zionism is the movement behind the State of Israel, and cannot and should not be associated with anything of Judaism or the Jewish people. Now, whether I would agree with the movement of Zionism if they don't call themselves Jewish, I would still not agree, but at least it's not in my name. Now, the question you ask, what the solution is to the current conflict, what's going on. First of all, we have to admit that all that was done to encourage this conflict, all what was done to trigger this conflict, all what was done to other people that still cause death and destruction to so many people on both sides of the conflict, all of this is not Jewish. All of this is not supported by all Jews, and all of this is anti-Jewish, against the Holy Torah, the Jewish religion. Now, what's the solution to the problem?
Yeah, what do you think?
We need to understand what's the cause of the problem in order to figure out what the solution to the problem. We have to understand what the sickness is and what the cause to the sickness is in order to work out what the remedy and the solution would be. We have to understand, and we have to go back to past history. Well, before 1948, before the creation of the State of Israel, there was already tension, there was already conflict, there was already bloodshed on both sides. But when we go back to the early 1920s, Jewish people lived in peace in Palestine. We have stories of boys, Jewish boys living in Hebron, for example, which is like one of the most tense areas today. They lived in peace. They didn't have any problem to walk by themselves behind the village with having the majority Muslim Palestinians. There was no danger whatsoever. What caused the conflict and why was it caused? When was it caused? This was by the invention of Zionism, when this mass immigration started, or at least when the movement of Zionism came into a region, officially, publicly claiming that they want to take power. They want to take over the power, oppressing people. What ended up with this unjust occupation, with this bloodshed on both sides of the country. What's the solution? It's very, very simple. We have to stop this state of Israel. It can be stopped with peace. Apartheid South Africa stopped in peace. Soviet Union stopped in peace. Nobody ever believed. I visited South Africa. I spoke to the people from the colored community, and I asked them, "How do you live today in peace?" And they said, once all oppression stopped, that there was forgiveness, as long as everything was revealed, all facts where murdered people are resting and all of that, there was forgiveness. We can have peace. If we truly choose to go the path of God, go on the path of justice, go on the path of reparation for all what was done. We have to grant the right of return to all peoples that lived there before. We had so many Jewish peoples that consider themselves Palestinian Jews. They lived there for many, many, many decades. I believe more than a century. We have people here. Rabbi Rosenberg is the 8th-generation Palestinian. His grandparents left Palestine after 1967. There are so many people like him. We're talking about people living there for many, many generations. There is no reason to think that there is no solution other than bloodshed. This is pure propaganda. This is propaganda, and why we are standing here today is, it's so sad. I'm not judging any of these people standing across the street, because I know exactly where these people come from. These elders across the street come from the same education that these little children across the street come from. They come from this propaganda that if you want to preserve your Jewish identity, you must support the state of Israel. If you want to preserve your Jewish identity, you must drop the Jewish religion, which is ridiculous, which is embarrassing. Unfortunately, these people are so misled. None of us can judge any of these people, but we have to admit that this does not represent the Jewish people as a whole. This does not represent our religion, the Jewish religion. And I always say to those people, step out of the box. Let's study history, our Jewish history, your Jewish history. Let's understand and find out what your grandparents believed in. Let's figure out what your grandparents gave their lives for. Let's understand what these people had in their minds. I'm talking about stepping back maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 generations, which is not that far back. When we're talking about 3,000 years of Jewish history, going back 3 or 4 generations is not that far back. And what all of us will discover is that when we're talking about Judaism, we have to envision a totally diametric opposite of what we see today in Israel. And let me tell you, I don't have the quote on me. Zev Jabotinsky, the secular name was Vladimir Jabotinsky. He was one of the fathers of Zionism, one of the main players in the Zionist movement at the very beginning. He wrote something similar, I'm almost quoting. He said, our first step is supposed to be to take the image of the traditional Jew and imagine its diametric opposite. And this is what we are going to create.
What was the name?
Jabotinsky.
Jabotinsky.
Yes. This is unbelievable. What we are trying to explain already for decades, Jabotinsky writes. In other words, what their intention was to take Judaism in its entirety and simply turning it 180 degrees on its head. And what's happening today, that we are facing today, this massive movement of Zionism. And we talk, and I as a Jewish person am dividing this in 2 major parts. One is the uprooting of our religion. and one is the endangering of our people. And this is aside of all bloodshed being caused to other people, the Palestinian people, which is totally unjust. This is totally criminal according to international law, and this is criminal according to Jewish law. All of this is totally forbidden.
What about holding the Palestinian flag? What is that for?
Well,
because those people they want to kill you guys, right?
No.
They get like a statue built of them if they kill Jewish people.
That's a very important
build
point.
name a park after them when they kill a Jewish person.
That's a very important point. That you're mistaking, because we are in the presence of those people many times and many occasions, and they have no hatred towards the Jewish people. I know many of those people who you think that will kill me if I would be in their presence. Yes, they are very upset with the occupation of Palestine. Yes, they are very upset with all what has been done.
Me too.
Would you allow me? Would you allow me to complete my statement? And they are terribly concerned about what was done to the Palestinian people. I have to add, I don't condone any violence, but we have to face reality. We have to understand why these shootings just a couple of days ago, these missiles coming from Gaza, why was this shot? We have to understand that there is something going on in the Holy Land that has created a terrible, bloody conflict. And again, I'm not condoning any violence, but I disagree with the fact that you said, with all due respect, that those people simply like to kill all Jews just because they are Jews and they would celebrate their murder.
I think they're given like statues of Palestine and live there. Here, why are you not there?
The point is that your people are being killed. My people are being killed. The question, what are you doing for us? Are you concerned about Jewish blood that is being shed? What are you doing for it? Do you do anything, or do you just sit back and relax?
I do a lot of stuff for the Jewish community, including surfing for the Israeli army. Not me, but my brothers.
What are you doing in favor of those people who are endangered and face missiles that might reach their homes any night? What are you doing?
Me personally, I can't do.
You can do. I do.
Like what?
I do.
What you're doing here is wrong.
I'll tell you.
What you're doing here is wrong for the Jewish people. This is a disgrace.
You might say that what I'm doing is wrong. I'm asking you, how come that you're Jewish and you sit back relaxed in Montreal?
I don't sit back relaxed.
You relax and you don't do anything for the safety and security for the Jewish people. I am doing for the
What are you doing? What are you doing? Tell me.
First of all, answer me why you so relaxed. Why are you so relaxed? Why are you coming here to debate me? Why are you debating me at the time that your people are in danger? I'm not talking about my people. I'm talking about your people. I'm sure you have some kind of relatives down the line that live in Israel, or some
my
friends,
grandmother. I go all the time.
and they are each and every day in danger. They are in danger.
I carry the briefcase to a kindergarten with a gas mask in it.
God have mercy. They are in danger. They have to go with gas. Okay, good.
What did you do?
Good.
What are you doing? Tell me what you're doing.
Excellent. What you're doing is you're supplying gas masks. Very good.
I'm not supplying them. I use them.
You use them. Excellent.
As a child in
Very
kindergarten.
good. Very
good. How good is that?
Very good.
This is who you're protecting?
How about raising some money and supply some gas masks for people?
Multiple times.
Excellent.
Every time I go to Israel, I donate. I donate every month, actually, as a matter of fact.
Excellent. At least you do something for the safety of you people. Very good.
What do you do?
Very good.
What are you doing except for this?
Let me ask you one more question. Are you supporting the Israeli Defense Force?
I am, yes, absolutely.
Oh, it looks so nice. It looks so nice that you're protecting the safety and security of the Jewish people.
What are you doing? You still haven't answered my question.
I'm coming to the point.
If these people kill a Jewish person, they name a park after them, or give them a statue, or give them money.
Or pension.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm coming to the point. You support the state of Israel. You support the Israeli Defense Force. You are supporting a movement which is driving oppressed people to kill your family. I'm not condoning any violence. I'm just making a statement. I'm raising a fact. What is happening is that in the 1920s, in the beginning of the 1920s, Jewish people lived in peace.
You're not telling me what you're doing. You're giving me
I am coming to the point.
No,
if you want to give respect to allow me to finish my statement, I would come to the point.
I'm not sure how much respect you deserve. Kids, this is what you're teaching
that's
your kids.
Your choice.
This is unbelievable.
You are supporting the IDF, which is causing conflict, which is fueling conflict, which is shedding blood on both sides of the conflict. Now, what I'm doing, I'll tell you what I'm doing. Your friend that was here before said that these Palestinian people that represent this flag are here to kill everyone. If I would be in their presence, they would kill me.
They probably will.
Let me tell you, I have just a little bit more personal experience than you have. They have nothing against the Jewish people. They are against the occupation. They are against Israel. I agree. They are in a bloody conflict against Israel. I'm not condoning any violence. I'm not supporting any violence. I'm not encouraging. I am not encouraging any bloodshed on any side of the conflict.
But it seems like
what I am saying is that these people hate the state of Israel for something that happened. What I'm doing to the Jewish people, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. That's your opinion. That's your opinion, and it's your choice to turn around and to leave here when I come to my point. But let me conclude my point. These people have no problem with Jewish people. They never.
These people are your kids.
These people that this flag, the Palestinian flag, represents there. And you're not going to change my subject, to move my subject aside. These people that this flag represents, the Palestinian people, have nothing against the Jewish people and never had. Jewish people lived in peace before the 1920s, and the question is why and the question is how. You have the option of simply denying history, but if you are aware of history before I'm not saying before 1948, I'm saying before the 1929 massacre in Hebron, that was caused directly because of the Israeli antagonism and provocations against the Palestinians. Before the 1920s, we lived in peace. You tell me what was the change? Why was this change? When was this change? What's the cause? You tell me. If you don't tell me, I'll tell you.
I don't know enough to argue that.
But I do know. I did my homework, and I would tell you. You may disagree with me. You can go home and do your own research, and you don't have to buy anything I'm selling you. But what I am telling you is, and I'm coming back to the point you asked me, what I do for my Jewish people and for you people, for your family.
Shit for you. What you're doing for me is
that's your respectable opinion. I will tell you my opinion.
Honestly, I don't care. I'm Israeli.
Yeah, you have the choice of leaving before I get to the point. That's your point, and I would add to the camera. What these people are doing is, these people are endangering not only Palestinian people. These people are shedding the blood not only of the Jewish people. These people are not only uprooting the religion of our grandparents that for 3,000 years we gave our lives for. These people are not only educating the masses of Jewish youth to turn their back to God and their religion. These people are not only supporting an official government, an official state, an official entity that officially, publicly denies God and denies his religion and turns their back to everything that Jewish people believed in for thousands of years. But in addition to all of this, they are doing everything to cause hatred towards our people, to cause bloodshed of our people, to cause bloodshed of the grandmother of this gentleman that was standing here before and that claimed that he wants to support the state of Israel, and he does so for a long time. These people are supporting the greatest rebellion against God and the greatest danger and bloodshed of the Jewish people. Now, whether I am here to judge those people, not at all. I definitely understand where these people come from. They come from celebrations as this across the street. That what they are doing is indoctrinating this propaganda machine into the youth. Please go ahead with the question.
Is it God's will to bring back the Jewish people into?
It's an excellent point. I appreciate you raised this point. Whether it's God's will to return the Jewish people to the Holy Land. Yes, this is the ultimate hope and desire of the Jewish people, that God's will of the future should come about soon in our days. The question is, what is exactly that future Jewish people wait for? What is exactly that future we pray for three times a day? What's exactly that prayer we say in the night of the Seder, the Shana Bob Yerushalayim next year in Jerusalem? What is exactly all what the Jewish people is all about, and what's exactly the Jewish religion? We have to sit down and study this for years. We can.
If the Mashiach comes, he will-
Okay,
he will find
it's even
people
more. It's
there.
even more than that. It's even more than that. The future that Jewish people were praying for thousands of years was that spiritual future when God and God Himself. May our eyes merit to see when you, God, would return to Zion, to Jerusalem. Our teachings for thousands of years was that we are forbidden, and I'm answering your point. We are forbidden by physical means to gather back Jewish people in mass, in large numbers. It is forbidden for the Jewish people to end exile by any physical means. It is it's expressly forbidden for us, and this is exactly what our teachings, what our belief, what our Jewish belief is. This is exactly what our scholars for thousands of years taught our people. This is exactly what our people believed in for thousands of years. Until what? When was this view over ultimate redemption changed? When was this whole concept of the Jewish people changed? When in history, and by whom, and for what reason, was this view on the entire Jewish people changed from
mission was changed.
Well, basically what happened is by this movement of Zionism, they attempted to transform Judaism from a religion into a nationalism. In other words, these people know that you don't have to practice Judaism to be Jewish. You just have to raise the Israeli flag. You just have to support the national movement of Zionism.
So it's not religious.
This is not religious, and this is not Jewish. All what Judaism as a religion stands for is the practice of our commandments, the belief in God, and the basics of the Jewish belief. All what the Jewish people are all about is about serving Almighty God. Jewish people, Reb Sadia Yegon, one of the greatest scholars in Jewish history, said that our nation is no nation other than with the Torah, with the practice of our religion. This is all what our people is all about. Before the movement of Zionism, if one person from the Jewish people decided, sadly, to no longer follow Judaism, then he just turned away, went his way, and he left our religion alone. He left our people alone. It was sad, but at least they didn't harm our religion, they didn't harm our people. What is happening with the movement of Zionism, with the state of Israel, they insist to call it Jewish. If you want to do this criminal, anti-Jewish, anti-God movement, this state, with any other name, call it the state of Satan, call it whatever you like, then it's still bad.
But it is a division. It's very...
Well, a division in which way? Within the Jewish people.
You have the devil and the word of God.
Exactly. And that's why we stand there. We would love not to have to stand there. We would love that these people would do. These people will turn back to the footsteps of their grandparents.
Do you think you can live in Israel? Is it possible? You think that the Mashiach is coming?
We have our strong belief. We believe with our full belief that God is going to send His Messiah, and that the ultimate redemption will come about when all peoples together, regardless where they come from, will form a bond and serve God together in harmony. When that is going to happen, I have no idea. My grandparents had no idea. My children have no idea. God knows. I leave it up to God. I'm religious. I follow the religion of my grandparents. I follow God regardless of all these obstacles.
Okay, that's really good. Enjoy your day. Thank you very much.